Dear students, you learned what are square numbers and you remember the square numbers till 25 square. Now, let us study the properties of square numbers. The first property is related to digit in the units place of square numbers. Now see here, we have square numbers 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, 81, 100, 121, 144, 169, 196, 225, 256, 289, 324. These are all square numbers. We have written square numbers till 18 square. Now, in these square numbers, observe the digit in the units place. These are the digit in the units place. 1, 4, 9, 6, 5, 6, 9, 4, 1, 0, 1, 4, 9, 6, 5, 6, 9, 4. These are the digits in the units place. From this, we can list out one property of square numbers, that is, square numbers end with 1, 4, 9, 6, 5 and 0. All square numbers end with 0, 1, 4, 5, 6 or 9 at units place. Square numbers have 0, 1, 4, 5, 6 or 9 at units place. Square numbers do not end with 2, 3, 7 or 8 at units place. Square numbers do not end with 2, 3, 7 or 8 at units place. So, now the question is, by looking at the units place, can we say whether the numbers are square numbers or not? See here, numbers ending with 2, 3, 7 or 8 at units place are not square numbers. If the units place of a number is 2, 3, 7 or 8, then we can say they are not square numbers. See here, 1232, 25,687, 1008, 12,567. Look at the digit in the units place. 2, 7, 8 and 7 are the digit in the units place. So we can say these are not square numbers because digit in the units place are 2, 7 and 8. If 2, 3, 7 or 8 in the units place, then they are not square numbers. But remember, numbers which end with 0, 1, 4, 5, 6 or 9 at units place are not always square numbers. Square numbers end with 0, 1, 4, 5, 6 or 9, but numbers which end with 0, 1, 4, 5, 6 or 9 at units place are not always square numbers. Look at these examples. 81, 196, 289, 441 are square numbers, but 31, 46, 29, 54 are not square numbers. See here, 81, 196, 289, 441. These are square numbers. They end with 1, 6, 9 and here 1. But the numbers which ending with 1, 4, 5, 6 or 9 and 0 are not always square numbers. For example, 31, 46, 29, 54. They end with 1, 6, 9 and 4 here. They are not square numbers. So you have to remember Numbers which end with 0, 1, 4, 5, 6 or 9 at units place are not always square numbers. See here, for example, 1236, 25,684, 1005, 12,561. We cannot say these are square numbers or not just by looking at their units place, because numbers ending with 0, 1, 4, 5, 6 or 9 at units place are not always square numbers. So there is a method to find these numbers are square numbers or not. Just by looking at their units place, we cannot say they are square numbers or not if they end with 0, 1, 4, 5, 6 or 9. Now, try this. Can we say whether the following numbers are perfect squares? How do we know? So, remember, if the numbers end with 2, 3, 7 and 8, then we can say they are not perfect squares. But if the numbers end with 0, 1, 4, 5, 6 or 9, we cannot say they are square numbers or not just by looking at their units place. Now you have to say these numbers are perfect squares or not, and you have to give reason why they are perfect squares or why they are not perfect squares. Now let us learn one more property of square numbers, which is related to digit in the units place. Now see here, 1 square is equal to 1. Now which is the next square number which ends with 1? That is 9 square, that is 81 and ends with 1. Which is the next square number which ends with 1? That is 11 square is equal to 121. Next square number which ends with 1 is 19 square is equal to 361. See here, 1, 81, 121, 361 are square numbers which ends with 1. Now write next two square numbers which ends with 1. Observe here, the digit in the units place of a number is 1 and 9. If the digit in the ones place of a number, that is here 1, 9, 11, 9. If the digit in the units place is 1 or 9, then square number ends with 1. Write two more examples of next square numbers which ends with 1. Now see here, 2 square is equal to 4. Which is the next square number which ends with 4? That is 8 square is equal to 64. If the number has 2 or 8 in the units place, then its square ends with 4. Now the next square number which ends with 4 is the number which is having 2 in the units place, that is 12. 12 square is equal to 144. The next number is having 8 in the units place, that is 18 square is equal to 324. Now you have to write two more examples of square numbers which ends with 4. That is, observe the left side. Here you should have 2 or 8 in the units place, then its square ends with 4. Now see the next set of examples. 3 square is equal to 9. Which is the next square number which ends with 9? That is 7 square is equal to 49. See here, 3 in the units place ends with 9. 7 in the units place ends with 9. So if the number has 3 or 7 in the units place, then its square ends with 9. So the next square number you can say square of which number ends with 9? That is 13 square, because 3 in the units place. It ends with 9. See here, 169. Next number whose square ends with 9 is 17 square, because it is having 7 in the units place. So 17 square is equal to 289. If the digit in the units place of a number is 3 or 7, then its square ends with 9. Remember, if the digit in the units place of a number is 3 or 7, then its square ends with 9. Write two more examples by yourself of square numbers ends with 9. Write the next number such that its square should end with 9. Now see the next set of examples. 4 square is equal to 16 and 6 square is equal to 36. See here, if we have 4 or 6 in the units place of a number, then its square, that is 16 and 36, ends with 6. Now the next square number is square of 14. 14 square is equal to 196, which ends with 6. 16 square, which ends with 6, that is 256. If we have 4 or 6 in the units place, then its square ends with 6. Now you have to write two more examples of numbers whose square should end with 6. Now see here, 5 square is equal to 25, 15 square is equal to 225, 25 square is equal to 625, 35 square is equal to 1225. See here, on the left hand side we have 5 in the units place. So its square ends with 5. If we have 5 in the units place of a number, then its square ends with 5. You have to write two more examples of square numbers which ends with 5. While writing the number on the left hand side, we have to write a number which ends with 5, so that its square ends with 5 only. Now look at these 5 sets of examples and you have to answer the following. See here, if a number has 1 or 9 in its place, then its square ends in 1. If a number has 1 or 9 in the units place, then its square ends in 1. If a number ends in 2 or 8 in the units place, then its square ends in 4. That is second set of examples. If we have 2 or 8 in the units place, then its square ends with 4. If the number has 3 or 7 in the units place, look at the third set of example. If a number has 3 or 7 in the units place, then its square ends in dash. You have to fill the blank. Observe the third set of example and fill the blank. Now if a number has 4 or 6 in the units place, look at the fourth set of examples, then its square ends in. Look at fourth set of examples and fill the blank. If a number has 5 in the units place, then its square ends in dash. You have to fill the blank. Look at the fifth set of examples. Now if a number has 0 in the units place, then its square ends in. You have to write the answer. Now try this. What will be the ones digit in the square of the following numbers? What will be the ones digit in the square of the following numbers? See here, 1234. Now, square of 1234 ends in 6 because 4 square is equal to 16. 4 square ends with 6. So 1234 ends in 6. In the similar way, you have to write examples, write the answers for the remaining questions. Now, try this. Which of the following numbers would have digit 6 at in its place? Which of the following numbers would have Which of the following numbers would have digit 6 at in its place? See here, if the square of a number should end with 6, then units place of a number should end with 4 or 6. Which of the following numbers would have digit 6 at the units place? If 9 in the units place, then its square ends with 1. If 4 in the units place, then its square ends with 6. If 6 is in the units place, then its square ends with 6. So, you have to write which of the following numbers would have digit 6 at the units place. And try this. Which of 123 square, 77 square, 82 square, 161 square, 109 square would end with 1? If the digit in the units place of a number is 1 or 9, then its square ends with 1. By remembering that property, you have to write the answer for this question. Now let us see one more property of numbers which ending with 0. Now 10 square, you know the value of 10 square, that is 10 into 10 is equal to 100. And 20 square is equal to 400. 50 square, okay, 50 square is equal to, what is the value of 5 square? 5 square is 25, 50 square is 2500. And 90 square is equal to, 9 square is 81, 8100, 90 square is 8100. Write two more examples of square of a number. In the left hand side we should have 1 0, and in the right hand side we will have 2 zeros. See here, in all these examples we have 2 zeros at the end on the right hand side, and on the left hand side we have 1 0. Write two more examples of a square of a number which ends with 1 0. See here, on the left hand side we have 1 0, and on the right hand side we have 2 zeros. So from this what we can say? If a number ends with 1 0, then its square ends with 2 zeros. Now see here, if a number ends with 2 zeros, then its square ends with 4 zeros. See here, 2 zeros, 4 zeros. 100 square is equal to 10,000. 200 square is 2 square is 4. 200 square is, here we have 2 zeros at the end of a number. Its square will have 4 zeros. See here, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 200 square is equal to 40,000. 500 square. 5 square is 25. Then here we have 2 zeros. So in the square we have to write 4 zeros at the end. 1, 2, 3, 4. That is 2,50,000. 900 square. 9 square is 81. And here on the left hand side we have 2 zeros. While we square it, we will get 4 zeros. So we have to write 4 zeros at the end. Write two more examples of a square of a number which ends with 2 zeros. On the left hand side we have 2 zeros, and on the right hand side we have 4 zeros. So square of a number which have 2 zeros at the end will end with 4 zeros. While we square it, it ends with 4 zeros. If we have 1 zero, then its square ends with 2 zeros. If we have 2 zeros, then its square ends with 4 zeros. If we have 3 zeros, then its square ends with 6 zeros. If we have 4 zeros, then its square ends with 8 zeros. So number of zeros at the end of a number doubles when we square it. So number of zero at the end of its square is double of the number of zeros at the end of a number. Number of zeros at the end of its square is double of the number of zeros at the end of a number. And one more property we can conclude from these examples is square numbers can have only even number of zeros at the end. Square numbers can have only even number of zeros at the end. If a number has 1 zero, then its square has 2 zeros. If a number has 2 zeros, then its square has 4 zeros. If a number has 3 zeros, then its square has 6 zeros. So square numbers can have only even number of zeros at the end. So if we have odd number of zeros at the end of a number, then can we say they are not perfect squares? Yes. If the number of zeros at the end of a number is odd, then we can say the numbers are not perfect squares. For example, 1000 we have 3 zeros at the end. So it is not a perfect square because we have odd number of zeros. And here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 zeros at the end. So 2 lakh is not a perfect square because we have 5 zeros at the end. 4000 is not a square number because we have 3 zeros at the end. If the number has odd number of zeros at the end, then we can say they are not perfect squares. They are not square numbers. Now, let us learn one more property. 4 square is equal to 16. 6 square is equal to 36. 8 square is equal to 64. 12 square is equal to 144. Observe here, on the left hand side we have even numbers and its square also even numbers. 4, 6, 8, 12 are even numbers and its square also even numbers. Write 2 more examples of squares of even numbers. On the left hand side even, then on the right hand side also we will get even numbers. So square of even numbers are even. Now let us check the square of odd numbers. 3 square is equal to 9. 7 square is equal to 49. 13 square is equal to 169. 15 square is equal to 225. 3, 7, 13, 15 are odd numbers and 9, 49, 169, 225 are also odd numbers. So what we can say, square of odd numbers are odd. You have to write 2 more examples of square of odd numbers. On the left hand side we have odd numbers and on the right hand side we have got odd numbers. So from this what we can conclude, square of even numbers are even and square of odd numbers are odd. Remember, even number square is even number squares, odd number squares are odd. Now try this. Square of which of the following numbers would be an odd number or even number? Why? We know the property. Square of even numbers are even, square of odd numbers are odd. So now see here, you have to say which square of which of the following numbers would be an odd number or an even number. And second one, what will be the number of zeros in the square of the following numbers? You know that number of zeros at the end of a end of its square doubles the number of zeros at the end of a number. If we have 1 zeros at the end of number, then its square ends with 2 zeros. If we have 2 zeros at the end of this number, then its square ends with 4 zeros. By remembering that property, you have to say whether what will be the number of zeros in the square of the following numbers.